568. And a little different look, a little different vibe, feel, scene. First of all, welcome. And we're going to give it a few seconds to double check that everything's actually working. And then with that, Johnny, give us a test. I'm pressing the buttons here, buddy.
I know it's a little bit scary to have you press the buttons, Terry. I'm not going to lie. We've decided to switch roles. You are now you're the producer and director, and I'm just going to be the brains.
Yes. All right. Well, you take it away with all your genius insight. Why don't we start that now? In all seriousness, I want to just give it 2 quick seconds, more than normal. I don't know if you can see the chat already, but I want to make sure that everything is up and running. There was a test about 15 minutes ago. And with that, I want to make sure that it's actually working.
Yeah, it looks like I can chat with the board. If I can, as long as I can read and see, I should be okay.
All right. Well, let's start. Why don't you give your explanation for why we're in the roles that we are, while I do a little bit of housekeeping to get some thumbnails and such set up.
So I'm actually upstairs in my sunroom. You can see it's right over there is my basket, which is kind of fun. I've always wanted to do a podcast from right behind me where the fire pit is. I think that would be kind of fun some night. But I am up here because for the second time in 5 years, I would say, the SmashBoxx studio was flooded. The Midwest and Milwaukee specifically, but southeastern Wisconsin got an epic amount of rain. We got about anywhere from 11 to 14 inches in about a 24-hour period. You've probably seen some things on Reddit and the news. Potawatomi Bingo Casino, they had a floor-to-ceiling, lower-level flood, 160 some cars just totaled. State Fair washed out. And, of course, I'm at my house here, and I'm watching everything. And about 5:30 on Saturday, right to my right over here, a tree branch falls on the power line, and we hear this big boom, and all the lights go out. And this was on Saturday before everything was happening. And so sure enough, I'm worried because I don't have a backup power for my sub pump. If you know what a sub pump is, if you're from the upper Midwest where you have a basement, there's a water table, and when it rains, it lifts, and you have a pump that basically pumps it out of your house. Well, I looked at it before I went to bed, and I was like, okay, we got like 4 or 5 inches. We should be okay overnight as long as it doesn't get crazy. And oh boy, things got crazy. We got about 8, 9 more inches that night. And unfortunately, when I woke up at 5:30, when my son woke me up, I had between 4 to 6 inches of water in my basement, my finished basement where the studio is. There's so much there. Yeah. So we kind of just started grabbing things and moving stuff around. Thankfully, the studio, for the most part, is intact. I had the computer while it was on the ground. It was on a lift that was about 4 to 5 inches off the ground. The water level, I'm not kidding you, was at the foot of the computer. Like, it was so close. Like, I looked at it and I started, there was no power, so I didn't mind walking through the water, not being electrocuted. I started ripping out plugs, and I pulled up the thing and I put it up on an upper shelf where there's no room to stand it there, but I just crammed it in there. And so, so right now the studio is, it's torn apart. It needs to be put back together. Everything was just ripped apart this weekend. We're cleaning out our basement of a bunch of cabinets that we had. We lost some old electronics, like a Wii U and a Wii, things that we didn't really play with anymore, but they were still hooked up. I think I lost like a sound bar with a subwoofer, a bunch of games and puzzles and books that were kind of on lower shelves, and a bunch of like cheap Target shelving or IKEA shelving type things that we had in the basement that we had all those things on. They suck up water like you wouldn't believe. So they were all swollen, and now the last couple of days we've just been bringing things out. Thankfully, like I said, the walls seem like they're okay. We were able to get dehumidifiers and fans down there, so the drywall doesn't look too bad. It actually doesn't look bad at all, except for one spot in my son's room, which we'll need to mitigate something there. But everybody's good, safe and sound. There was nothing more we could have done. I did order a battery backup for my sump pump now, so that'll be in the mail shortly. But yeah, that's why we're kind of where we are right now, Terry. You're over at your friend Dave, the disc dyer, and I'm up in my sunroom. So you're running the board.
Yeah, so a little bit different setup in that sense, and honestly, I just tried it about 15 minutes ago to find out that this would actually work the way it does. So thank you to Dave and the Dyers Guild for letting me use the space. We'll get into some of what we saw from the weekend, and then kind of project about what we might see a little bit upcoming this weekend. This kind of I'll tie right into it. Already, a conversation has been on Facebook and the Instagrams and the Twitters about just the heat. No surprise, Midwest summer. I get all of that. I know some things are all too obvious, but it was kind of crazy as I'm packing today, getting things ready, and I'm just scrolling through to see the number of people that are making mention of either the heat or the humidity. The storms seem like always are going to be hit or miss this weekend, but we've seen this event cut short. The Ledgestone, that is, we've seen it cut short and not be able to get fully completed in the past, and it is what it is. But the rain and everything that just came through the Milwaukee area, I think I saw somewhere it was like 1,000-year rain storm is what they were calling it. So unfortunately, it has absolutely rocked so much of the Milwaukee area and beyond. And all things, as you just described, Johnny, when it's all said and done, you were quite fortunate. I was very fortunate, but you were quite fortunate. There's so many people that had, feet of water and, absolute loss and devastation. So,
we've
some
already
silver lining in perspective there for sure.
Yep. And we've already worked it out with our insurance company. So we're doing okay there. It's, again, it's more just the time now everyone has to put in to clean the things out and what you're going to keep and throw away and all these other things. It sucks because, we lost some family stuff, a couple photos and things. But I will say, I'm going to give a short plug here to Brixton. I had a box. Well, I had a couple boxes on my ground of discs. Some of the old disc store was that. Yeah. The one that we used to give away every month or so. I had 2 or 3 still sitting there on the ground. They were soaked. I haven't even opened them. I dried them out. I don't know what is in them yet, but I think we'll open them on the show at some point. And then I had a box of the 2024 complete sets that had just gotten set down as I was moving things around a week or 2 ago. And they were still in cellophane, but the water got through the cellophane and it was in the box itself. So I tore those open, but the packs, I haven't opened up a pack yet, but the packs still feel sealed. And so I think I still think they're good. So I have stacks of packs right now, and which is unfortunate because I wanted to keep the whole box as like a collector thing. But you know what? I'll do an opening of one of the sets of cards and we'll see if there's any damage to them or not. But so I forget what kind of, I know one of them was a relics box and I forget the other box, but so shout out to Brixton for maybe some good packaging on the inside, multiple things. It's amazing.
Yeah. Well, all right. Let's we'll get back to Ledgestone. Well, real quick, I just want to highlight the fact that there's a number of the players, obviously top level players, that stuck around after the Worlds to then go to Turku to play in the Turku Open. I'll just quickly kind of run through what we saw over there. I don't know that there was surprises per se. We had a good open field or MPO field, and then FPO field. When you have the likes of Silva, you look at her as potentially being the favorite going into it, and then to see that Kaidi Asalu was the one that would push her all the way to a playoff is pretty cool. So when it was all said and done, though, Silva Saarinen, your champion, picking up yet another Pro Tour win. I got to click on it to see, what is that, 3 or 4 for the year now?
I think 3 on the year.
Well, I guess it's a few clicks away, and it shows you that I admit I did not watch every minute of the broadcast to know for sure. That is her. That is her third. Yeah, that's her third on the year because she got Preserve, Turku, and the Ale Open, which is when she first got past Kristen, so to speak. So congrats to her, along with picking up a major. Talk about trending or being just on top of the game and doing what she's been doing over the last month and a half. Obviously, you look to a Worlds that wasn't quite up to par with what you'd expect from her play overall, but outside of that, obviously having a good time. And then on the MPO side, well, let me read off I'll read off your top few finishers here. Silva again takes it in the playoff over Asalu. And then we had Anale Tugis Manaste, Cynthia. I don't know if it's Bergia. I'm not sure on that. I apologize. Cynthia. And then Ida Emile Nesse, Katie Tate, Jennifer Smiley, Yenny Karpedin, and then Ida Letamaki takes 9th. And then tying for 10th was Deanne Carey and Netta Lepaho. Lepaho. I'm going to. It was your top 10. Sorry, that's a new name for me. So that's what we saw in the top 10. I guess I'll just ask, any shock, surprise, thought there that you need to add on to that, Johnny?
I mean, looking at it, I don't know if Katie Alsalu is a shock, but she definitely performed well. She played, I think, above her rating. She was, and she's rated 942. It looks like
989.
Not 989 golf. So, she is a solid player. I don't know if I would have picked her at second. A lot of people would have probably picked Ida to finish better than 9th with the performance she just had at Worlds. So maybe 9th is and not to Ida. I don't say it's a letdown to Ida, but maybe it's a letdown to the fans, maybe expecting more from her after this phenomenal Worlds play. But remember, she is 15, and she's like, I know her rating jumped today as well, but she's currently rated 943, or at least she was when the event started. She might have jumped up more.
I mean, really, I feel like the big story there, more than anything, is, first of all, she was only 2 off the lead after round 1 to Silva.
Yep.
Second round, she shoots a pretty decent round along with everyone else, except for Silva, who absolutely destroyed it. Shoots a 1039 rated round. And then it was at that point where she blew everyone away. She shoots a 12 under. The next best score was 7, and then a bunch of 5s and so on and so forth. So, like, it felt like Silva just was on another level, and then kind of I don't want to say closed it out clearly, but definitely separated herself in that second round. And everyone else is playing at like a good level. And we just saw that Silva was on a whole nother level during that. And
Ida, and honestly, talking about Ida, she was really just 9 holes away from a good round. She finished off really poorly in that final round to go 3 over. If she just finishes solid, she jumps herself up into the top 5, which is where I think a lot of people expected her to finish. But again, being 15, you're going to see some roller coaster action from her in the next couple years. Other than that, looking at some of the results, it's good to see Allie Smith in the cash line. I know she's had her issues this year with putting and just in general some stuff like that. But I'm scrolling down the leaderboard, and there's really nobody that didn't. Henna DNF'd. I guess maybe there's a story there. A bunch of people, or I don't say a bunch, but I've heard of a few people coming back from Worlds that ended up getting like some sort of flu or sickness. And I think it probably hit her. I don't think it was the same type of sickness that maybe you got after the black party, Terry, but it's it's a different type of sickness. So Hannah DNF'd after, I believe, the first or second round. I mean, I don't remember if she completed the second round. But either way, let's see here. First, she just did 1 round. So she DNF'd before the second round. Other than that, you would have picked Hannah probably to be in the top 3. But what do you do when you get sick? You just deal with it. So, and she did, and then she was able to, move on to the next event.
Okay, well, we're going to move over to the MPO side of things, where it was exciting all the way down to the final hole. We were really kind of holding our breath as to what was going to happen. I was able to turn it on really for the last half or so of that round. That was the most that I was able to consume. And when it was all said and done, Ezra Robinson picks up another Elite Series victory that adds to the one that he picked up to open the season at the Supreme Flight Open. I'll just say, like, what an awesome experience for any player to pick up a win in another country, but to pick up an Elite Series win in another country, like, just clearly something he'll never forget, especially after getting that win earlier in the year, and then to come back and be able to, not that he needs to prove anything to anybody at this point, in my opinion, but the fact that he can tack a second Elite Series win on is pretty incredible. He ended up holding off just barely a Calvin Heimberg, Danielle Davidson, Maury Vilman, who finished in fourth. Hjalte Jensen finished in a tied for fifth, along with Lori Lettinen. Aaron Gossage, who was a little bit hotter in the earlier goings of the weekend, had some struggles there in the final round, where he would then finish seventh. Isaac Robinson finishes eighth. Frito finishes in a tie for ninth, along with Eetu Salamaki. And I saw a post today that Frito's birdie on the final hole was in fact the difference of him getting the USDGC bid as opposed to possibly losing it. So congrats to him. I'm excited to have him come back come October and travel over here from Sweden. Good group of guys that he hangs out with, lots of fun. And so congrats on getting that USDGC bid. Clearly a really big deal. So, but yeah, we were treated to a pretty good show. We had a real diverse casted crew in terms of the overall star power. It didn't feel like any one country was in obvious, domination or anything of that nature. And we saw a lot of good golf. I mean, would you say maybe some of the surprises are watching a Wysocki finish in a tie for 11th? And then, Wysocki basically finishing in 11th, and Antila finishing in a tie for 28th.
Yeah, those are, and then even a Proctor down at 19th, even though Proctor hasn't had the most solid season. Ricky is really the surprise. He started out hot, had a really great first round, was up near the lead, and if not, maybe even had the lead at some point. Second and third round, shooting like 10-20 rated golf. Just Rick is clearly in some sort of slump, because usually we see him go to Europe and he plays really well there. That hasn't happened this year. So I don't know if we're going to see a change up and he's going to get to Ledgestone, a place where he has played well as well, if he's going to be able to come back and just be dominant at Ledgestone, or if we're going to see a continued slump out of Ricky. That's really what I'm taking out of this, is just Rick. Something's going on with Rick, and he needs to figure it out.
Yeah, and I feel like we saw him struggling as he was closing out Worlds, whether it was officially Lyme or fatigue, or a little bit of both, or fatigue due to Lyme. I think that's what he was posting about.
Was it? Okay.
We saw his knee wrapped even during the latter part of Worlds, and even the fact that it was at the Black Party, which I forgot to say last week. It was at that point when I learned of the story that's now been made public, where he was watching the FPO playoff and the final few holes, and he was pushing the time of getting to his tee in time.
Yeah.
And he says, he's like, I was so into the playoff, I didn't even care about the arriving to my tee a minute or two late, because he was taking in the FPO playoff and two strokes with where he was, not in contention. Not that he was intentionally trying to be late by any means, but he said the history of the playoff and the history of what was going on in FPO felt a little more important than even the two strokes to him at that point.
I'm really glad to hear that, honestly, because I did see he took the 2-stroke penalty on hole one, and I was like, oh, another player who's just can't make that 5-minute rule. And then you're right, I did hear that he was just like, oh, I wanted to watch FPO. Bravo to him. Honestly, like what a way that he got to witness history, because it was going to be historic either way that playoff went. But he wanted to stick around and see that. I give him props. I'll give him 2 strokes next time I see him.
Wait a minute, I don't. It's not that kind of show. So, and he said, I think he still was only like 30 seconds late, or whatever the scenario was. It wasn't like he got there. I mean, I guess at that point, if you're going to be 30 seconds late, you might as well be 4 minutes and 30 seconds late. But apparently he was just 30 seconds late or so to the tee. And he says he was preoccupied with watching and taking in the FPO action. So, or it's just a really good excuse. And he's making that up. I don't think that's the case. So anyway, seeing him struggle, seeing Antila, I mean, there is obviously a World's hangover, and as cliche as that sounds, it's hard to gear up, I'm sure, after another Worlds has passed, and now you have to wait for your world championship run, you're waiting essentially a year, 11 months, 12 months, 13 months, whatever, the exact number is, but you're waiting a whole nother year now for a world title. And whether that's, and anyone that's in contention and, or has a legitimate shot of winning, when you're an Antila or a Wysocki, for instance, it's got to be really difficult to be like, yeah, let's go out for this. It's an Elite Series event, but it's got to be tough, right?
I will say this. Yes, it's very tough. It has to feel like an eternity when you're 20, 21, 22, that age. When you're our age, that year seems to fly by a little quicker. I swear to God, I'm going to turn around and it's going to be Worlds next year already. But yeah, if you're in that position, like a lot of these young guys, that year is going to be, the next few weeks might be a little bit of a drag.
Yeah, and really which is funny, because I think the next story is just the fact that we then gear up and we have a lot of serious golf still to come, all in the next 90 days, or not even 90 days, the next 60 days, essentially 60 to 70 days. I mean, you're talking about obviously the Elite Plus event this weekend, Ledgestone, huge paycheck, 2 courses, everything that goes along with Ledgestone, and just all the chaos and the fanfare of 2,500 participants plus friends and family. And then we're going to ultimately have the Idlewild, but then we gear up for Deglow, which is 4 rounds. Then a couple of weeks later, we gear up for a 4-rounder at Smuggler's Notch, and then the week later, a 4-rounder at Maple Hill, and then a couple of weeks later, 4 rounds for another major, and then the week after, another. I mean, we have a ton of high-level golf for them to play, and
so maybe it will go by quicker for them.
I just think, like, if anyone took a physical or mental break right now in any capacity, now's the time. And that may be exactly what we're seeing from Kristen, or might see. Some have already speculated, when are we going to see her again? And when will she come back and play competitively in the States?
What's the event? I was going to say, what's the event before Throw Pink? That would be,
I mean, there's Smugglers. I mean, are you thinking she would miss Deglow, Smugglers Notch, and Maple Hill?
I think she might miss Deglow. I think she'll play Snub.
I could see that.
I could see her just coming back for the playoff events and then kind of get ramped up into the Throw Pink and then the Tour Championship. Throw Pink and the Tour Championship. I was going to say, the kind of major, but the Throw Pink and the Tour Championship. I could see that happening. Give yourself a good 3-week break of not thinking, not worrying, not having to compete. And I mean, she competed this weekend but that's a much different, much more casual competition, a completely different rules, different way to play. It's not the same type of pressures that she probably sees on the tour.
Yeah, and that, I guess, can lead right into where some of our players ultimately went immediately following the World Games. And when it was all said and done, we had congratulations go to Gannon Burr, along with Missy Gannon, for taking the gold medal.
Yeah. They're only the second or the third and fourth technically players to have that in our sport.
Yeah, along with Barry Schultz and Juliana Korver from 2001 when the World Games were in Akita, Japan.
I'm sure you have, and I think I have, held the medal. You got to hold the medal?
Yeah, when Barry came back, and there was a whole bunch at the time. Hero Disc Sports, which is basically like Innova of Japan, to over paraphrase, and Hero did all the merchandising. It was held in Japan. Hero is out of Japan, so on and so forth. And I have a good share of memorabilia and things that were made to either commemorate or to support Juliana and Barry for going over there. So really cool. I mean, USA undefeated in the sport of disc golf at the World Games, but pretty cool. And then Evelina Salonen takes it down along with Tukkanen.
Silver medal.
Were you surprised that and I'd be the first to admit I do not know the backstory, so maybe you do, maybe the board does. The story of him being chosen as opposed to anyone else is
Antala.
he, yeah, or
Um,
just someone who's, dare I say, not to be disrespectful, someone that's more of a recognizable name. Was there maybe a Finnish championships that he won or
no,
something? To how did that? How did that?
my my understanding is and this is what I heard, was that he just turned down the opportunity. He wasn't. He didn't think it was going to be. I don't want to say as big of a deal, but he didn't realize the grand spectacle of it. It didn't register with him when he was asked, and so he declined. And they went to the next person, which is, you know,
Hmm.
and from what I heard, he second guessed it later, and like, oh, maybe I should have done this. It seemed like it was a really cool experience. Gannon went, and it just with Gannon and
I mean,
Silver
the
there.
opening ceremonies alone, right? Like
Exactly, and
just to being able to
it's
walk out there, even if you walked out there and went on to take, fell on your face and took dead last, like
yeah,
to be at those opening ceremonies and to be treated the way that they were, I
yeah,
think is would be something that would be memorable. But yeah,
correct, and that's maybe just youth not realizing the grand scheme of maybe the things, and
sure,
thinking, oh my God, this is like 2 days after Worlds in my home country.
yeah,
Like, think about this, what if he had won Worlds, and then he's got to get on a plane like 24 hours later and leave his home country to go to play the World Games, when he maybe is looking at taking a celebration tour around
sure,
Finland. Like, I can kind of understand the thought, like, I have a good chance to win Worlds. That is more important to me than these World Games. Really want to focus on Worlds and not the World Games. So I can't hold it against him. Clearly, I think he maybe hindsight's a little 2020, but that's life. Hopefully, he'll have more opportunities.
yeah. And again, there's clearly, I'm not trying to throw any shade or disrespect, but there are, and this doesn't necessarily judge how good you are, but there are 3 to 5 other MPO
Mhm.
Finnish names that are more recognizable, at least
Vi-
to Americans.
Vino
Yeah, to
and
name
and
one.
and I mean, Laurie Letman would probably be your next best, but at the time when these were being decided, I think he wasn't exactly. He was still kind of an unknown quantity at that point, with his game and whether he was coming back and what he's doing. And he hasn't been much of a traveler, so
Sure.
I can understand that. But I'm sure. Hey, silver ain't too bad, and I'm not talking a lot. I'm talking silver medal.
Hey, yeah, and was that a surprise, or was that maybe almost a foreseen or foregone conclusion that the team of Silver and Kristen wouldn't not only not
Hmm.
win gold, although clearly are a very solid team, but not only not win the gold, but to not even actually medal.
That you would think, if you looked at the list of teams, you would think that they would take, in my eyes, second or third, because you have to figure the Americans are the favorites just because of Gannon being the number one. And I understand the way this format is, the way you had to, it was an alternate shot. You had to pick who was throwing what holes ahead of time, and you could only throw certain, and it ended up getting reduced to 12 holes. But
Yep.
It was definitely interesting, the format. And I bet we see more of this, because I think it really leveled the playing field a little bit more than we're used to seeing for even alternate shot doubles. I was a little surprised. But Terry, do you remember last week who I picked? I picked the Latvians.
Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah, and
they have you to thank, basically.
It was my poll. I called it on Tuesday before because you asked me, like, you mean the Lithuanians? I was like, no, the Latvians.
Yeah.
And then I felt bad for not picking the Norwegians, but still, I called them out, and they took third, which honestly I knew nothing about them, and I was just talking out of my bottom side. But hey, I'm glad that even a blind squirrel. So congratulations to the Latvians.
Yes, very cool to see. So taking ultimately third, the bronze medal, as you said. So really cool. There could be probably a 4-hour podcast really exclusively just on the World Games and their experience. I know people like Gannon, on the other hand, is not probably up for a podcast, who's just
No.
barely got home a couple hours ago. I read the Instagram story of Kristen today, who talked about, a 2-hour flight here and a 2-hour layover, and then a 4-hour flight and a 2-hour layover, and then a this and then that. And then they went to, somehow were at the wrong airport. I don't know if there was a thing in booking, and I can see how that happens, because sometimes we'll say in Thailand, you, instead of going to BKK, you go to DKK or DNK or whatever it is, and you can shuttle between the two, but it's a real big pain. And sometimes, yeah, so I get it, but insane travel is
Yeah.
really the story that so many had. So then I guess that begs the question, whether you're coming back from Turku or you're coming back from China, are you negating, are you dismissing any of those competitors that are
No,
all faced with that
absolutely
for a
not.
4-round
No,
super hot
sorry.
Peoria
No,
weekend? No. Okay.
no. Well, in
No
China,
excuses. No
China,
excuses.
no excuses. That's right. In China, it was ridiculously hot as well, which is why and humid, which is why they reduced it to 12 holes instead of the full
Mhm.
18. And so I think, if anything, maybe Gannon's more prepped for it now. Then he'll probably get over to the Midwest and be like, yeah, it's a little muggy, but it
Yeah.
ain't too bad. And these guys are all pros. They've
Okay.
all played these courses. They know them inside and out. There's really probably not many changes to Northwood or to
Eureka or
Eureka.
Sunset. Yep.
Thank you, Eureka and Sunset. Um, I don't think you can really write off any of them. They're just too good. They're too good. Like, even on a day or two's practice, they're gonna walk around the courses, they're gonna throw some shots, and they're gonna be right in it. Like,
Well,
I I don't put any of those top players out. I bet you. I'll go on record and say Gannon, Calvin, or Ricky wins Ledgestone,
dang.
and all three of them have
Okay.
traveled.
Okay. Uh, I'll go also and share a little tidbit that this is what I heard earlier in a production meeting call today, is that Gannon was traveling. I saw his mom make the post that he's finally home, but that he's been traveling back. And I think he said as much as he may not even go play a practice round before the event. Um, in order, whatever, rest, relax. Like
Sure.
you said, they know these courses. Now, he can say that all day long, and I would bet $100 that even if he did say it, he'll still play at least one practice round. I can't see him not doing that. And if he did, I'd be fine with it. He knows his body best. He knows his routine and whatever. A lot of this stuff is pretty straightforward for them. Like you said, they know the courses very well. But I think that's a bluff. I
I,
think I think it's
I
easy to
mean,
say, "Hey, I'm just gonna just show up and play." I just can't see Gannon doing it.
well,
He is
Ed,
way too dialed in.
yeah, Ed on the board says that Eureka actually has 5 new long pads. Sorry. So my guess is that Gannon's going to hear that and he's going to get out there to see them and maybe throw a few shots on those, but not. I wouldn't be shocked if he didn't put a full round in. If he just went to Eureka and was like, okay, I'm gonna get a couple shots in, and
Well, one
so
of those specifically, and I went along with the internet along for the ride. One of those I know specifically is the tee on hole one at Eureka, and what they did is they actually backed that up. I think 40 feet was the number. They
wow,
backed it up, and obviously that makes the water clearing a little bit more difficult, and more importantly, it brings the two trees that kind of actually frame up that tee
yeah,
shot, it brings them very much actually into play. In fact, I believe the right one is a Mando, so that you can't just bail out, take a wide hyzer out and around to the right side and play a super safe route. um, But the 2 trees at the beginning are in fact, now into play.
So are
And
we
there was
going to
a
see people lay
the
up on that?
that was the debate. Way to jump ahead. That was the exact debate: is will anyone lay up?
Yeah.
And there's some people,
Oh yeah.
I think including Heinold might have chimed in and said no, no MPO player is going to lay up from that spot, and that it's still legitimate to clear and should be done. I believe that he said that, and then there was obviously a healthy debate of some saying there would be layups and some saying there wouldn't. But
I bet you there'll be a handful,
you,
but probably not like none of our top players because they all clear that pretty well right
yeah,
now. But we do see people come up short. We've seen it. People that try to get close to that edge and hyzer as
yeah,
opposed to just blasting past it. Now maybe just unfortunately everybody blasts past it, and there's less of a chance. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to watch. That's for certain.
yeah. Yeah, so that will be in play, and I have to assume, and again, I didn't. I'll get more info tomorrow. I have to assume there's a number of those scenarios where new tees were added, and Nate, as Nate put it, largely not because he necessarily wanted to make the hole harder, but because they were trying to find the consistency of the tees, meaning that tee area on hole 1 specifically, what you always teed from, like an asphalt
Yeah.
tee, and then in other spots on the course you have the turf, or you have the or an actual tee pad built up. And so one of the main impetus to this wasn't to make it tougher, it was to adhere to the teeing standards, so you're not playing from as many different surfaces. So where that got applied throughout the rest of the course, I haven't done that research, but I'm sure between now and this time tomorrow I will find out exactly that. Then it won't be into play until technically Friday anyway. But oh no, they're opening at Eureka. Yeah, they're opening at the MPO are playing Eureka. Then they're doing Northwood Black, and then
Yeah.
back to Eureka.
Yeah,
Yes.
that makes
Okay.
sense.
Anyway, so we'll see. But the whole point of what I'm getting at is the fact that they're trying to adhere to those standards, which should be, I'm assuming, is welcomed by everyone, because that's a fair criticism. Even though it is a temp course, the fair criticism is, why are we teeing from 3 or 4 or whatever different teeing surfaces that they've had on that
Sure.
course? And that's something that they're trying to get addressed. So
I like that. I mean, that's we see every year. Nate seems to think of something new and to make the event better. And I
yeah,
can't. Yeah,
and to be fair, that I think is completely within accordance and within the actual Pro Tour standard. So it makes sense that,
okay.
I don't know if he's been out of compliance in the past or just out of strong suggestion. I'm not sure how it's technically worded, but I'm just saying it's good to see that it is being addressed in that capacity. So yeah, and then on the FPO side, the fact that we're going to see them playing over at Northwood, and then we're also going to have the rounds at Sunset, just as we have. I think really the big takeaway from this whole conversation is it's different from last year, because last year we had both the Champions Cup there in April,
Mm-hmm.
and then we had Ledgestone there, and the courses weren't intermingled over the 2 events, right? We either played one course or we played another, so on and so forth. Or last year they played Sunset exclusively for the 4 rounds on the FPO side, and they didn't play the Northwood Blue course at all. Northwood Black. Do they play Northwood Blue, or do they play Northwood Black shorts, or do they play
I don't know the difference. They played at the Northwood Park. I don't know.
Okay. Anyway, so we'll see action from both MPO and FPO ultimately at Northwood at some point, and then we'll see it over at both Sunset and Eureka on the MPO side. I will just go on and say I got dizzy looking at the million things they have going on. I don't know how anyone can keep up with it. Good luck if you're coming there as a spectator. I know I'm only going to be able to take in so much, but every single day and night there is a fly mart, an experience, some kind of special drop, a live band, or a food truck, or free ice cream, or there's something planned everywhere every night. I know there's some glow golf going on.
Mhm.
I certainly won't be able to attend all of it, or or even a fraction of it probably.
Oh yeah.
But I know it's pushing somewhere in the neighborhood of like 2,600 players,
Yeah. Take
plus some
advantage of
friends
it.
and family. It's going to be insane. So I hope everyone that comes has a good time. Hopefully I'll see some of you as I'm bopping around, maybe at one of the fly marts or something like that. You have about 2 hours, less than 1 hour. If you need boxes or bags, you want me to hand deliver them to you, I can pack more along. I've already got a bunch in the car. I'll pack more along for you. We can save on shipping. So that's a very timely note to throw in at this moment. I'm just trying to save everybody money. That's all I'm about. So so we'll see. It's back to the grind. We're gonna miss a lot of our top players aren't going to be here. And again, that's all part of that whole world's hangover conversation, and or just taking a break, right?
Yeah.
I think it's, right off the top of my head, you obviously have Kristen, but then you think of a Silva Saarinen, Hannah, Evelina not going to be there. It's just going to be a very different dynamic as we move into this event. Owen Scoggins, big shout out to her. Since last podcast, I believe, celebrated a birthday. So now maybe she is officially 45.
Now she does have that 30-year gap on Ida.
Yes, exactly. So hopefully there's some prolonged celebrations. I saw some posts from her, and having a good time with family, as she should be, in terms of a birthday celebration. Ratings came out today. Gannonberg got to 1061. That's newsworthy, right?
Yeah, that's one shy of what Macbeth's 1062, highest rating ever. God, he's like 2 really good wins. I bet you if he can win the next 2 events, he bumps that up. He gets to Macbeth's 1062. If he can, because if he's winning these events, he's probably averaging right around there or higher. And I would be shocked if he didn't get there with wins. Now, anything could happen. He could after this travel and not practicing, he could come out and shoot 1040 golf, and it could quote unquote wreck him, But
I hate when that happens to me.
All the time I have to like pick and choose my events so I don't shoot those bad 1040 rounds.
When my ratings plunge because of my 1040.
I know. Isn't it crazy that's so true for him? Like a 1040 is subpar for him, and not much subpar. He wants more subpar. But yeah, like that is record. I mean, that's record setting virtually.
Yeah,
we haven't seen anybody in the last few years bust up to 1061.
Yeah, so congrats to him. We'll see where that ends up going. And then also I know we don't usually make too much of a ratings hubbub, but when it was all said and done, Bagel Powered, Ella Hansen's final round at Worlds announced today, ended up being the rating went up, which I feel like it rarely does for whatever reason. Because
no one mentions it when it goes up. That's why.
Exactly. I'm not an astrologer. I don't know. It went up. So 1065 becoming officially the highest rated FPO round ever.
Yeah, and I want to say congratulations to Ella. What a phenomenal achievement. And I know everybody's going to follow that statement up with, what if? What if she didn't go out of bounds on 18? What if? Like, I get it.
Makes that putt. Yeah.
What if she makes that putt and she's looking at 1065 or 1070 or whatever that is? But either way, regardless, the fact that you can make a mistake and still have the highest rated round in FPO history, standing ovation, truly. It was fun to watch. I can't imagine being upset with that. Like that's something that's record book right there. That's a number that I don't know if we'll see touched for years in the FPO field.
Yeah, it was very cool to see. So congratulations to her, and hopefully there's a disc or something cool that commemorates it. I know commemorative discs are probably feel like they're getting more and more saturated by the minute. Yeah, but I don't know. That's an incredible
Speaking
accomplishment.
of, I think commemorative discs, like for something like that, well, two things, and I'm not sure which one I would want. Like a pre-order, so you can just order as many, like just make as many as you need. Like
Sure.
don't have them floating around. Like, cool, if you want one, maybe it gets 40 orders, maybe it gets 400. I don't
Sure.
know.
For 4,000. Yep.
Or 4,000 or 40,000. I don't know. Then again, I'm just making up numbers here. But that, or specifically limit them. Like, we're making 100 of these, or
Sure.
we're making 1,060 of them.
Oh, so clever.
So
1,065
clever, you
even.
know. And that's what gets sold.
Sure.
And I'm hoping that, obviously her sponsor Discmania. I hope OTB does something. I know she's an OTB sponsored player. That would be kind of cool. But just in general, I think that it would be it's worth celebrating. But I think you're right in that with every commemorative disc that comes out now for every Elite Series. Man, I mean, think about this. You'd talk about, oh, Gannon and Missy should have a commemorative disc for their world win,
Yeah, their World
for their world
Games win.
world games win. And it's like, okay, yeah, that's cool. If that's what they want and it sells, I'm not going to ever fault them for it. But you're right. I think there maybe is a little bit of
Exhaustion and saturation.
I was going to say hangover, but yeah, those are probably better words with commemorative discs these days. It just feels like they're less commemorative and it's more obligatory.
And that's just it. Is like clearly it's always subjective to the person. Gannon getting his fifth commemorative disc stamp or release for the year holds far less weight than when they did something special for Ezra Robinson to pick up his first,
Yeah.
Supreme Flight. So it's obviously always going to be subjective and relative to who the player is, and are you often winning, and
Mhm.
it's not nearly as big of a deal.
Who's
So
buying, other than Gannon's mom? Shout out. Who's buying Gannon's fifth commemorative disc? Like,
there's definitely, I'm sure there's some
I'm,
Gannon fans that feel like they need them all. They're going to go broke at some point.
maybe I guess, yeah, they're going to go broke. It just and again, I'm not dissing Gannon, not dissing his
No.
fans. I'm just thinking like at some point, it just feels like, okay, how many do I have to buy this year? 8. All right, like got to
Well,
collect them all. The fucking Pokemon
I
here.
mean, if you're the big fan and supporter, which he's got thousands of, then
Yep.
so be it. I just know I personally can't imagine now trying to keep up with every single win by
Mhm.
every single weekend. Yeah. But anyway, some people getting there first would argue otherwise, understandably.
Yeah, first ones are great. Like
And
I
speaking of their first, and hopefully their only, Jessica Weiss and Double G getting married this weekend. In fact, getting married, I believe, on Sunday, the 10th, so just a couple days ago. So congratulations to them. I believe they were in Illinois with some friends of theirs, and a couple of disc golfers I know were involved, but not a massive onslaught, and hundreds or thousands like one may guess or assume. But I saw the likes of Rebecca Cox, I saw Nathan Queen, and a few others that were there and were part of the day. And there's a couple others, but at the end of the day, what matters, Jessica, along with Double G, congratulations on tying the knot on Sunday. So, and nothing for nothing, Jessica, I gotta check the books. She's won Ledgestone at least once, maybe even twice, possibly.
I was gonna
I'll
say, I
have to
hope they
look that
enjoy
up.
their honeymoon in Peoria. It's what a beautiful place to go on your honeymoon.
I'm guessing there was some logistics to that making the most sense. Obviously, they're very tied to Norway, where he ultimately proposed, and everything else. But yeah, when it was all said and done, they got it done here. And to be quite frank, clearly trying to do it on a quote unquote off weekend, right? Like that in itself is, as we know, that much more of a challenge these days. When you're talking about two touring professionals, to find a weekend that's not chaotic for everybody, yes, there was, the World Games are going on, and there's still some people in Turku, but in general, this was probably the least busy weekend they'll have until December. So
I was gonna say it's rare for a disc golfer to get married in the summer. Everybody
Yeah.
schedules the fall wedding when you're a disc golfer. You get the late October to late November wedding usually. So good, awesome for them. I hope, wish them nothing but the best, obviously, and it's cool to see. I'm going to give him a big fat high five and a hug when I see him next.
I will correct myself. I guess surprisingly to me, she has only won this once. Maybe she's just been certainly close in other years. She won it in 2018 along with Nate Sexton on the MPO side. So Jessica Weiss, your winner in 2018. Now would be a good time to pick up another win.
I mean, why not?
That was probably her last big. That was her last biggest win, if I had to guess, or one of them. So, come honeymoon weekend, so to speak, would be a good time for another one. Tim says, hopefully the spotter who kills rollers isn't in Peoria. Yeah, hopefully we can avoid. We got a lot of volunteers, a lot of helpers that all are usually 100% well-intentioned. And hopefully we can avoid any kind of controversy or drama or challenge when it comes to any of our volunteers out there. Yeah.
I was thinking of something, Terry. I want to go back real quick and just talk about the World Games, or ask your opinion. Like, I'm hearing from on the internet and on podcasts talking about how important this World Games is, and I don't want to pour water on their fire, but I just think of, like, it's a lot of the same stuff I heard in 2001. How big of a step this is, how great this is for the sport, and how much excitement there is, and how it's the next step to the Olympics. Is this any different? Are we, is the sport, clearly the sport's at a different position, but are we going to see, do you think we're going to see different results from this one than we saw from 2001 when Barry's there? I just have a real hard time believing the hype, so to speak. And sure, I know we're in a different position, but what's your take on that?
I'm like Flavor Flav. Don't believe the hype. Okay.
Wow.
No, I do believe it though. And here's why. And even if I didn't believe it, I would still be blindly optimistic. And here's exactly why. When we saw people like, I'll say, Bite Shoes or eventually Vibram come into disc golf, we got all excited. These non-endemic, big name shoe brands, eventually Keen, Solomon, through people we knew, showed some interest in our sport. We're still getting those, and we're still getting excited about those, but there's now more than ever. And Vesey is one, obviously, that comes to mind most recently. Merrill has been very much in that conversation as well. And I'm just using them as examples in that we're getting so many more outside eyes today than even we did in 2001, that we've been saying forever, we just need the right company or the right executive or the right executive's kid to play or whatever. And now we have the World Games that we can tell everyone. And I think it feels more impactful when you say that, when you can. Now, granted, not everyone knows what's going on with the World Games. There's probably, millions upon millions or tens of millions of people that knew nothing about any of the World Games while it happened. And I totally understand that. I know nothing about the World Games outside of the disc golf portion myself. I didn't seek any of it out, but it's still this very well-established potential stepping stone. And that's why I say I will be blindly optimistic, because I know it's not going to hurt us. And there's that many more people that were watching it and involved with it than even in 2001. Mm-hmm. And I think
we couldn't watch it in 2001, to be fair.
Yeah. And I'll say, I forget the exact number, but Henniger said it during the Worlds meeting at one point, that we had something like a couple dozen events or so that were being held outside of the U.S. that were PDGA sanctioned in 2001. Now we've got thousands that are being sanctioned. And it just goes to talk about the overall global scope of where disc golf is. And I don't know. I think about the Australian team, Cassie Sweeten, for instance, who's already this phenomenal ambassador. She goes back and like, I'm guessing a good part of Australia knew where she was and what she was doing. Her and Blake, I believe, who I don't know as well. But the overall country representation and then being brought back to their own country and just all of the fodder that went along with it and the hoopla for lack of a better term. I don't know. Does it guarantee us any kind of success? Absolutely not. But I feel like in an age of social media today versus 2001, there's so much more room for us for it to latch on, grab hold, and have somebody run with it, whether it's a company or an entire country or whatever the case might be, or an Olympic committee or whomever. I don't know. Is it an instant pathway and for sure a slam dunk? Absolutely not. I don't think that. But I'm on board with thinking this is pretty cool, and there's no reason that it couldn't lead ultimately. I mean, there's just so much more representation in disc golf worldwide today than there was in 2001. I think that alone. I mean, the fact that Latvia takes third and most of us can't find Latvia on a map, and I can only find it because I know where Estonia is, and I only know where Estonia is because of Kristen. Like, it's incredible. I don't know. Maybe my idiocracy isn't a good testament to much of this, but to me, it's proving that disc golf is helping everybody grow and embrace, and I think that's happening at a global level. I mean, sure, you can talk about the USA and Finland all day long for disc golf, but think about all these other people that were there and what was going on. I don't know. I'm on board. And
I'm on board. I obviously hope that it leads to other things. I know the next one in 2029 is in Germany.
Okay.
I'm just curious. I will be extremely disappointed if we're not represented in 2029 at the World Games. Like,
yeah,
it feels like, again, it feels like 2021 where we had this stepping stone and then it led to nothing for future World Games. I'm not saying it didn't mean anything, because it did mean a lot to some people, and it's hindsight's 2020. I don't know how many more people we had in 2022 because someone saw it in 2021. I don't know how many people we'll have next year because, of 2025. But I really hope that we get to continue this into 2029. If not, I'll feel like it's another, I don't say wasted opportunity, but just false start. So,
well, I'll say this. I mean, I guess if you want to kind of take a slightly pessimistic angle, you could say, this doesn't go anywhere. Oh, well, it was a flash in the pan. Guess what? Gannon, Missy, and the other 30 competitors that were there, none of them, it's still a life-changing moment for all of them. And to me, I think that's really cool. And I think I told you this weekend, and I'll share it here. They're absolutely, from a historic perspective, I absolutely was envious of the people that were there. And it was awesome that Brian was there to do the work that he did. Whether I was working or freaking caddying or just walking along and spectating, just to have any involvement in any capacity. Even I probably underplayed or undervalued at first because it was coming off of Worlds and everything else. And to be fair, I was not asked to be part of anything, but and had I don't know that I for sure would have. I guess it depends on what it was. If it was going to be to go to there to work, I absolutely would have done it. If somebody just said, "Hey, you can share a room with me," and then you do everything else on your own, I don't know that I would have went. But now that I didn't go and I saw what happened, I'm definitely proud and and a little envious of everyone that got to have that experience. So congratulations. I don't care if you took dead last or if you're Missy and Gannon Burr and you took home the gold. It just looked absolutely awesome. And to see so many people that I know from around the world, from traveling to Australia and traveling to some of these other countries, to then know some of those people actually playing. was even cooler. So
Yeah, it was really cool because there's, I'm going to maybe a backhanded compliment or maybe the other way around. Being able to watch it was phenomenal. It was hard to follow
for sure.
because it was alternate shot doubles match play, which
Yeah.
in and of itself is a little crazy.
Hmm.
And then add some extra rules, add a little bit of craziness into some of the shots. Some of the courses, the course isn't known at all to anybody. The graphics, like, it goes to show you how good the disc golf network is now versus this multi-million-dollar production
Hmm.
that looked, uh, I will say, it had a lot of pixels. It looked really nice. It was gorgeous, but it was hard to follow. Thankfully, Brian did a phenomenal job, like
Hmm.
keeping everybody up to date. And even he sounded sometimes a little frazzled from what I heard. And I didn't get a chance to watch the final day because of the whole power thing that we had. But yeah, it was amazing. But it was very, as a lot of people say, it was very difficult to keep track of.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
It was
and
almost
that's
impossible.
that's tough, and that's partially on the production company. They did their best. You've got cameramen who don't know disc golf, so that makes it difficult. You've got a whole production company that's never shot disc golf before. They kind of shot it apparently like more like golf, and they were just jumping really quickly to different things, and you were
Hmm.
just kind of guessing. But it was cool to have it. It looked good, which is kind of nice. So I just imagine that what we could do with like their budget and cameras and our skill,
Yeah.
but maybe we may never see that. I don't know.
Yeah, it does. I know there's obviously a lot of criticism starting from day one with Smashbox. In 2016 or 2014, actually, technically, all the way up until this weekend. I'm sure there was a flaw or two in the Turku broadcast, but uh, covering disc golf's not easy, and even these massive production companies with plenty of money, yeah, sure, of course they're going to improve as you would expect over time, over a number of events, but it's still not easy to do, and there's a
I
lot of
did.
moving parts.
I did have some early Smashbox flashbacks on some of their camera work, like
Yeah.
watching, like suddenly having someone throw and then they're on one camera, they never cut to a catch cam, and then just having them like pan and turn around to the next player, and it's not steady, and it's not like I'm
Hmm.
just like, I've been there, buddy. I feel you. I know what that is.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. And I think the ultimate wrench for all of it was a very late decision. Totally agree with it, but a very late decision to trim from 18 holes to 12 holes and make the matches that long. I think just kind of added to a little bit of the
yeah.
confusion, especially when we're used to also, we have trained and learned over these last really 10 years. Almost everybody watches golf starting on hole one, ending on 18, right? Like
Mhm.
that's how on the highest levels that are televised are almost always doing that 99% of the time. When you start having different people on different holes in this unique format, yeah, it all added to some of the confusion. But I'm not hating on it because, like you said, been there, done that, and we got to watch disc golf being played while they're in China. I Sure, we could get nitpicky, but at the end of
Oh
the day,
yeah,
we'd be
no,
happy with that.
yeah, no, it was good enough, is what I felt like. It wasn't an embarrassment, and
True.
it did the job that needed to be. It wasn't, even the announcer that they brought in that had no idea about disc golf. Like
Yeah.
he did his research. He's a professional. He had a lot of history on the players, a lot of their backstories. Like he did his research, which I was very impressed with, because whenever you say you're going to bring in like a pro, you're thinking like, okay, they're going to be okay. You know, I will. He did have a catchphrase, which I thought was kind of funny. He called a lot of things a piece of work. That's a piece
Mm.
of work, Terry. That shot was a piece of work. I bet. I watched one of their 3-hour broadcasts, and I think he said it 5 or 6 times. That's a
Mm.
piece of work, Brian. I just chuckled at it. It was like, all right,
Which is funny because, at least in our Midwestern slang, at least when my mom said it, she's like, "You're a real piece of work," and that
exactly.
usually had a negative connotation. right?
Yes. Yes.
It was a somewhat of a rip, and or yeah, meant it was levied with some sarcasm of like, oh,
Mhm.
you're a real piece of work. So it's funny that he was using it in we'll say a more direct or literal or not literal,
Yeah.
a more straightforward sense
Mhm.
of sincere sense. So that's
Yeah.
kind of funny. The one that I only heard a couple times is he liked to talk about rattling the chains, and
Ah,
a popular phrase. So it's funny. Everybody, falls into their various catchphrases sometimes, and sometimes they're noticeable. And once you hear it, you can't unhear it. We've all got them, and it's funny to see someone come new, so to speak, come into the sport, and then just see his interpretation of it. And like you said, did a ton of work. Clearly knew these. The way he kept talking, because I missed his background and any information on him, but the way he was talking, I was really trying to figure out, like, do I know this person? Does well, has he done other broadcasts? Is he like a hardcore disc golfer, or is he a super fan? Like, just trying to figure out where he was, because he knew things about a
mhm.
lot of players. He obviously had done his research, and I think worked with Brian, but yeah, I was impressed. So as they say, he was no goog that we saw back at the Go Throw Skins match a
Uh,
number of years ago. So, which is funny to think that's like 5 years removed already. 3 years,
three.
three maybe. I don't know. It popped up in my feed the other day. I was like, holy cow! It's yeah, it's crazy to think that was. Anyway, real quick, I'm gonna probably talk about this literally every week until the weekend that it happens. I do want to quickly say I already put it in the chat. The Throw for More presented by UDisc, where you go out, you get a pledge. You say you want to play some golf during Saturday, September 20th. You're gonna play some golf. You get people to pledge for you as to how many holes you're gonna play, and then hopefully they come forward on those pledges. And then UDisc is also then going to give 10 cents per round that gets played. And
Yep.
so that's on Saturday, September 20th. I want everybody to go out and try and do it the best as you can. It says you sign up, you share your page to collect the pledges, you play as many holes as you can on the 20th, and then you track your rounds on UDisc, and every round log that day, UDisc gives 10 cents to the Paul Macbeth Foundation. You may ask, Terry, where's your cut? I'm getting zero of these dollars. Uh, I just think it's an incredible fundraising effort that is a lot of fun. And it kind of goes back to old school fundraising that maybe you and I are a little more used to from many years ago, Johnny, where it was like you'd go out and you'd run a 5K, or well, you or I wouldn't, but you'd go out and run, or you do all these things, and you get people that would pledge different amounts for doing certain things, and then people would contribute to it. And I don't know, I love that style. I think it gets you excited, it encourages you and pushes you to do more. And the fact that then ultimately UDisc is going to match it, or not match, excuse me, UDisc is going to give 10 cents for every round that gets played. And then this all goes to the Macbeth Foundation, which continues to put courses in literally all around the world. I don't know. I think it's awesome. And they've, as they say here, since launching the Macbeth Foundation, they've put in 26 courses in 16 countries already. And
That's
I
it.
will, I
Gosh.
will, I will forever be a proponent of this, as I was physically at one of those installs in Uruguay and saw it and dug it and stapled it and cemented it with my own two hands. It was an incredible experience. So, yeah, get out there and do it. All right. That's a lot of my notes. The Double G and Jessica announcement, I just thought was super awesome. Again, congratulations to them on the wedding. I'll see some of you guys at the Ledgestone in the next few days. Make sure you bring plenty of water, and you're probably going to want to bring your credit card for all the various vendors and people that'll be there throughout the weekend. I know AB and a lot of your other fan favorites are gearing up for lots of different drops and signing sessions and exclusive this and exclusive that. So, and I think the same is going to be said of the peeps over at DGA. Uh, Did I talk last week? This will be the last thing, maybe totally golf related. I don't know if I mentioned last week when we had our show on Wednesday that I woke up that morning with a kidney stone.
Yeah, you told us that. I told you to go on some roller coaster rides, bro.
Yeah. Well, I didn't do that.
Fail.
I fought through it throughout the weekend until Sunday, and then finally I went in. I went into an emergency clinic thing down the road, and we won't talk about their customer service, but the end result after a scan was that I still currently have a 5 millimeter kidney stone working itself in me.
Is 5 big?
For kidney stones, yes. Does 5 millimeters sound big? No, it really doesn't. I mean, think like how tiny like 5 millimeters is. It's not that big, but it is when it's this clumped up, crystallized thing trying to get through various tracks in your body. So if I am running around in a field, maybe losing my mind a little, it may or may not be the painkillers, but hopefully I'll be on track. I honestly, I've been pretty good since. I'm taking a couple things, but I do have painkillers just in case it becomes excruciating. And all that to be said, I'm also already geared up. I think I'm going to be taking the backpack that's usually like cooking our backs in terms of the on-course commentary and attaching it to a mini Zuka cart. So I'm going to be rolling a Zuka cart around, trying to keep something off from jamming into my back and making things possibly worse throughout this weekend. But yeah.
If you can't do the roller coaster, do this. You're heading down to Ledgestone soon. Ride the rumble strips all the way down there. Just the whole way, Terry.
Yeah, just get on I-43 and and 51 and just rumble strip it. That's a good call.
I know.
How did the doctors not suggest that? I don't know.
I don't know either, Terry. Or as someone said, I think they can take care of it with Sonics. Have Double G throw some Sonics at you.
Okay. Yeah, that would. I don't know, but it's there. I've been able to manage the pain for the last couple of days, and we're just gonna hope that it's gonna work its way out, and hopefully that'll be done. And then from there, I promise again, like I did 16 years ago, I'll start drinking way more water, and hopefully that will help alleviate any of them to return in any amount of years. So,
yeah, I think less of those energy drinks you drink.
Yeah, probably that too, but just more water, more water in general will probably help a bunch of my health related things, including my overall weight. So yeah, time to gear up a little bit more water.
Good for you, Tara. I've been
more water. Okay. Let's call it real quick. And yeah, I guess it's just going to be more or less a countdown. And then we could get into, we'll have what we consider a real quick after show here.
Sure.
Although it's not going to change much from what we're already doing. I don't even have fancy graphics that I think I can put up. Let's see. Maybe I do. Or maybe it'll end the stream and that'll be the end of all of us.
Good question. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't really think I can have. Ooh, I can add stuff. Oh, this could get dangerous.
I mean, I could bring something up on my phone and just put it on the camera or something.
Yeah, no. All right. Well, here's what we're going to do, since I don't want to mess with it because surprisingly, this has actually worked pretty well. So with that, I'm going to just say thank you for joining the regular show here on podcast 568. We appreciate all of you. We're going to have extra giveaways come next week. I'm going to probably get some items signed while I'm at the Ledgestone event so that we'll have some additional giveaways that we can do for you next week. So thank you for joining. And if you stick around, we're going to have an after show. But until then, we'll see you then. You step inside the SmashBoxx.
Thank you to our $2 and above patrons. Your support helps this and other fine podcasts.
Do you have them memorized? Start reading them.
No, I don't. That's as good as I got.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks.
All right. Cut. Now,
all right.
They're still here, I think. So real quick, I'll do an opening and you can cut this up however you want on an audio version.
I think we might just it's a pretty short podcast. We could probably just do it in one big.
All right. Welcome in. It's the after show. Let's quit effing around. Here we are. I'll read off the board. I've kind of kept an eye on it. hopefully everything is hopefully everything's been working out at least adequately tonight. Disc golf dyers, pretty sure that's how Chernobyl happened. Yeah, big shout out to Dave. I know Dave and a couple other dyers are actually going to be represented at this weekend's event. So I'm leaving tonight and then going to be doing the press conference tomorrow, which is why I'm going to leave tonight and get down there and get things ready for early afternoon for doing that. Dave is going to be packing up his entire setup and then will be available, I think, at a couple of the fly marts and some of the other vending things. I think also out at Lake Eureka quite a bit. So if you're interested in learning more about how to dye a disc or some of the things that are possible, or hey, I don't know anything about it, can I just get a starter kit and maybe some instruction? They have all of that stuff for you at the Dyers Guild. So make sure you find them this weekend. And they'll give you tips and tricks. And you could probably even show up with a disc and say, hey, what did I do wrong here? And they could probably give you feedback. Or if you want, your kids, your family, yourself, you can dye a disc right on site, which I think is one of the coolest things. There's been so many times I'll be at the booth next to them or hanging out, and then somebody came by earlier. They did their, they went through the whole setup, and then they come back after it's set and dried and everything else. And then it's, he shows it to them and hands over their disc, and the way people's faces light up, kind of like mine did when I dyed my first disc in this very studio. So very cool opportunity. He'll have discs available, and make sure you come check out what they have going on. So he didn't ask me to plug that, but I will, because it's very cool. There's going to be some disc racks as well that he's working on that are pretty cool too. All right. And you're probably cleaning up this weekend, aren't you?
A little bit, yeah. Not like cleaning up at a casino or anything, unfortunately. Yeah, that's pretty much all I have planned. We're hopefully going to finish, again, it's been like 3 weeks of insurance for me. And because after my wife got rear-ended in her car, we're dealing with that insurance as well. And so we finally got a number, even though we haven't gotten a check yet. They gave us at least a number for her car. So now we need to go out and get a different car for her. And she was all dead set on a Jeep Grand Cherokee because that's what she had. Well, we looked at one. They're like, oh, there's a really good deal on one, like half hour north of here. So she goes and checks out the 2023 Jeep Grand Cherokee. She had a 2020 and she hates it. It's a different they must have refreshed it. She says it's a little lower. The hatchback, the tailgate, whatever, the hatchback doesn't lift up as much. My wife's 6 foot. She's like, I've got it up there. And then I hit my head on it because it wasn't as high as mine. So she was complaining about that. And she's just like, I don't like it. I don't like the refresh. And I'm like, okay, I don't know. You had your heart set on this one. So let's keep looking. So now we're back to kind of square one as far as what we want. I don't know. She wants like one of those mid-size SUVs. I don't know. We were looking at the Subaru Ascent, which is like, it's really nice, but it's like a 7-seater. Like, what do I need? What do I need a 7? They fold down in the back and it's good. We're obviously looking for used. We're not looking to buy anything new. I'm trying to keep it at a relatively very small addition to what, was paid off on hers. So yeah, that's what I'm doing this weekend. I'm cleaning up and probably figuring out car stuff, which I'm not interested in either one, to be frank, but yeah.
Would you be interested in a 2005 Honda Element with 267,000 miles?
Ooh,
is that almost collector age? You got to be 20 or 25?
20 years. I think 20 years technically collector. So, or you can get collector plates at 20 years. I don't know if it's technically a collector vehicle. I think at that point you can get collector plates, but
I don't know.
Yeah. Someone asked if my wife is a giant like me. She is, for being a woman. She's 6 foot.
7'2". Oh,
she's 7'2". Yeah.
She looks 7'2" to me.
Yeah. Well,
everybody does.
Yes, everyone over 5'6" looks 7'2" to you. Hey-oh.
Yes. Johnny's wife is tall.
She's 6 foot. My son is 6'8". My daughter is only like 5'5", and I don't think she's getting any taller. So, yeah. So I don't know, but but yeah, doing more cleanup downstairs, going through stuff, figuring out what can go and what can stay, throwing things away. Maybe if we're lucky, doing a little bit of shopping for some cabinets or some, I don't want to call them cabinets, even like cheap shelving that we can put books and stuff and games on. Cabinets make it sound like it's nice, that they're going to be nice, and they're not going to be. So they're just going to be, hopefully be okay. Michael Knight says the Subaru is good, but the Ascent is trash. I worked at a Subaru dealership. Okay, that's good to know.
Good to know. Ed writes up top that I'm seeing. He writes, Nate Heinel did announce that this is his last year on the PDGA board. Could be a term limits issue. I don't believe it is a term limits issue because I don't know that we have them. Although I think plenty of people would be all about implementing them. I don't think that's necessarily it. Maybe that'll be a good question for the press conference tomorrow, which leads me to, I've got at least 10 minutes with a number of these players tomorrow for the press conference. I will likely be alone, which is frustrating, but I will likely be alone. And sure, I have questions for them. Do I have 10 minutes worth? And we don't have to fill, all 9 minutes and 58 seconds with every person. I understand. However, if somebody has a legitimate question, and I'll use that in air quotes, legitimate. If you have a legitimate question that is potentially appropriate and useful to be asked at the press conference, and you have my socials, and or you can reach out to me, feel free. I just like on our board, I may use it verbatim. I may take a variation of it. I may use 3 words from it and have it spawn off into a totally different angle, possibly. Or like I said, it could be verbatim. But if you've got something that you want to know of these players, I'm open to it. And that's not to say it's because I don't want to come up with questions. It's because we need some fresh people and perspectives. And I love that we have, I like that we have these press conferences. And I really like that this year we've trimmed them back so they're not before every single event, and they're largely only before majors and or I guess 4-round events, other 4-round events like Elite Series and maybe Pro Plus events and playoffs. But we don't have this press pool of 2 or 10 or 20 different people to ask questions. So it feels very, and I'm not trying to sound whiny and complaining, even though I am. I would just love more people to have some more questions for us. So for what that's worth, feel free, reach out. And real quick, if I can find them, I'm going to try to run down even. And I know this is timely, but it's still shot in the dark. As far as I know, right now, we've got Nate Heinold, Owen Scoggins, Holland Hanley, possibly Gary Payton, who's a local Illinois disc golfer, Addison Woodard, who's an FPO Illinois disc golfer, Evan Spur of the Pro Tour, Missy Gannon, and Gannon Burr. And we may or may not for sure hear from Gannon, depending again on how he's doing. So this is actually a pretty light load compared to some of the other pressers where we have like 18 freaking people. This one's a pretty light load. But if you've got really good, insightful, burning questions that are appropriate, shoot them my way, and maybe I can make them work. Doc says, just talk to them about your kidney stone. Yeah, nobody. The only thing that is funny or not funny about kidney stones is people that have had them versus haven't. And if you've had one, you know the pain, you empathize, and you're like, ugh. And if you haven't had one, you've heard of other people talk about the pain, but it's it is on another level. Again, they always say it's in the same territory as women bearing children and childbirth. I'll never know from a legitimate standpoint how those two compare for sure, but it can be insanely painful. Is all I know. And the worst part about it is getting comfortable is impossible. Like there's no angle, there's no laying down or standing up or jumping jacks or or roller coasters. There's nothing you can do to like relieve the pain while it's happening outside of possibly having a prescription painkiller. So if you've had them, you know. For Missy, with all the young FPO, is she feeling a bit like tour mom, like Paige was to many? Okay, that's a delicate one to dance around. Also, to not give the impression of, hey, you're older. But she is with experience, so that's fair. Getting Series 7-seater, someone really nice to her car for plenty of room. Oh, Aaron, you earlier said on here something about a round at D-Glow. I'll just say I don't know if that's practical for me or not. It's going to always come down to when do I actually get into town. It's right around my kids starting school, so on and so forth, and when I actually will travel over to Michigan and be on the ground. So if I can make it happen, I'd love to. It'd be fun. It's just usually pretty rare. And I'll tell you this, I don't want to play toboggan. If we go play golf anywhere, I don't need to embarrass myself and throw at the actual toboggan course. I did that once. It was called 2000 Worlds. And I played terrible then too. Aaron says, yeah, the real fun begins when you get a UTI. Let's hope that doesn't become the thing. What does Nate and his team need to do to bring Ledgestone up to the likes of Maple Hill or European Disc Golf Festival from a fan experience?
That's a tough
one. That's a good question. I know you're asking it. I'm going to copy and paste it, actually. I'll put my 2 cents in there, since I know, like, Nate, for instance, isn't watching anyway. It's just such a different vibe. Maple Hill is one course. Maple Hill has been iconic for now 20 years, like 2000, 2004, 2005, MSDGC, Marshall Street Disc Golf Championships. And what he created and started there has had a history that very few courses and properties in the world have matched. The Beast has had not as many years, but since its inception and its design, the Beast has had a one course, very specific history to it, and then the experience that accompanies it. I think it's a little different at a place like Eureka. And what I mean by that is you go out to Eureka in 20 days and you can't even play the course. It doesn't exist. There's a different course on site that is not the one that these guys play. But the Eureka temporary course that we'll crown our champion on Sunday, you can't play it.
But does that matter from a fan perspective? Like,
I think to some degree, because right now we know that people take day trips to Northwood Black, and we know that because they get there and they take a picture and then they post it and say, oh, I'm one of the toughest courses, or whatever. And you can't do that at Eureka. Now, is that enough to make the tie? I don't know, because I'll say this: the viewing areas at Eureka are pretty good. Mm-hmm. I think of the hillside on 1, and then when 2 and 3 are a little congested, but 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 when you're crossing the bridge, and then you see the crowds on 10, 11, 12, all of those come back, the water tower hole on 13, and then the next 6 really are all pretty fan friendly. And there's people camping out on hole 17 at Eureka, on that little postage stamp green. I like all of those things, and the vending is as good or better than we're going to see at Worlds. Now, I know you can be a little bit dismissive or frustrated that it feels like it's largely Discraft locked in, and there is obviously a ton of Discraft there, but the other vending that is still happening in terms of a few of the other brands and and then the food carts and the options to get other activities and food there at Eureka specifically. I'm not going to say they're unmatched. They're not the greatest in the world, and we've never seen better, but they're pretty good. And I think it just the way that big park is open, it allows you to go spectate. I mean, you can get ice cream and then walk 30 feet to see hole 18, or walk 100 feet in the opposite direction and watch the water tower hole, or walk 150 feet to see the tee off of hole number 1. So, just for example, I mean, there's stuff going on, and
or if there's a backup on 11, you walk over and get pizza.
yeah, exactly. So Northwood's a totally different, mess, right? Because although it's one of the best courses in the world that people seem to really love, getting people through those woods and those fairways, even though they've done a lot to make it viewer and fan friendly, it's just forever going to be difficult. We saw it at Worlds. We saw people doing that at the Monster, but they also literally had to run. It was like, okay, you're going from here. They would say, all right, now we're running. And people picked up their chair and literally had to run to the next spot. And that was perfectly acceptable for them to do.
Yeah, but I mean, I think this parallels with Worlds really well, because you've got the heavily wooded course where the spectating is not good, and you've got the open course where the spectating is much better. I just wonder, like, is there anything more Nate can do to bring in more fans? Like, that's the question in my mind. Because he's pulling in all the AMs, which is why there's so many people here. And I think their event ends on Saturday, probably, right?
No.
Oh, are they going through Sunday?
Yeah, they go Thursday. They go Friday through Sunday, and so that might be one of the answers. Is let's just play pretend and say every single, now this still wouldn't solve it, but let's say every division was done by 1 o'clock on Sunday. They're not, but let's say they were. All play was done by 1 p.m. That maybe gets everyone to come over to the course. Now, the problem is there's payout. They want to get in line for their payout. Payout already is a huge, massive undertaking, and they're splitting up how they're getting those done in different places. But yeah, I mean, there's your built-in gallery is to get a lot of the players over there. And plenty of players do come over, don't get me wrong. But if you're playing till 3:30 or 4 o'clock, you may or may not, come over and
See, this
catch
is
the
where
last 6 holes.
This is where you get sneaky and you make Ledgestone. You do cuts for the amateurs after 2 rounds, so everyone has to stay the next day in case they make the cut. But the people that don't make the cut then be like, oh, I'm here. I already have my hotel room. I'm going to go check out Eureka for the day, and then you do something like that. So you kind of tie them into that to get that.
I mean, I'll say this. One thing that I feel like Ledgestone's currently doing, because of the spectacle, because of the 2,400 players plus, some family, it's already bringing spectators. And I can say that because I saw a few people at the Flex Start I ran this weekend that aren't playing in the event, but absolutely said they'll be down at the event. They're not playing in Ledgestone, but they'll be down there for at least 1 or 2 of the days. And that says something to me right off the bat, because most other events, you just, most other, non-pro tour events, you never hear someone say that. Like, oh, there's an A-tier going on, I'm going to go check out the last 2 days of it. Nobody says that. At our pro tour events and ones of this scale and size and magnitude, people will go to it. And Illinois is a hotbed. I mean, Peoria is a very centrally placed location in terms of a ton of players, whether that's people coming from lots of places in Wisconsin, Iowa, other parts of Illinois. Like, people can come from anywhere to spectate here. So I don't know how much that's a problem. I guess that would be maybe a good question. Do you need more fans? And the short answer is yes, but how many and how badly?
Yeah. I don't know, because there's no one, as we're discussing on the board here, there's no one in the US that's pulling in the general public. Nobody. Like, you're pulling in disc golf, you're pulling in disc golfers versus in Europe, where the sport is bigger. It's a more of a city center where the people are coming in to watch, and they can be, on a scale of 1 to 10, they can be fans at a 1 to a 10 level. Like, you're not in the US, you're not getting fans that are from the 1 to the 6 level. You're just not. Like, people, people just are like, oh, I know disc golf. I play casually, but am I going to go watch a bunch of people throw discs? No, I'm going to go do something else this weekend. We in the US, and I don't blame Nate, I don't blame anybody. We're just not getting it. And I don't know if there's I don't know if there's a way to pull in the general population.
Yeah, I'll say this: they're not doing it at a place like, it's not going to happen at a place like Eureka. And I guess I'm kind of reading from the board. You're right. Eureka's not off the bus line. Let's put it that way. There's no buses that go anywhere near Eureka, Illinois, for starters. I don't even know if the kids can ride a bus. No, I'm just kidding. But like, it's in theory in the middle of nowhere, to some degree. All of these courses are somewhat in the middle of nowhere. And so it's no comparison at all to being at the Beast, or even the Monster. Was you could walk to the Monster course at Worlds this year, and it wouldn't have been crazy. You can be in downtown city center of Tampere and take a 3-minute scooter ride and be at the Monster course. There's no 3-minute scooter ride to Eureka, and there's no 3-minute scooter ride to Maple Hill. Just almost all of our destinations are outside of massive cities, because that's where land is available. And so it's a totally different cultural perspective. And yes, does Tallinn do it, take full advantage because of the Estonian, the Song Festival grounds and Nokia, what they have? Yes, but just to really oversimplify it, America's just built different.
Yeah.
Like,
and I
we
think
have no outside of a place like Central Park in New York, and maybe Sedgley Woods over in Fairmount Park in Philadelphia, which is like the second largest city park in the country or something like that. Outside of those two places, like, we don't have green space in city center that hosts disc golf. That's why it was so cool to see some of what happened in places like Japan and in some of these other festivals where they do set up things on a temporary basis, because that also can bring in that city, bring in the city. But think of the top 100 disc golf destinations, and most of them are nowhere near a legitimate population base or city center of a big city.
The closest thing we can do right now is kind of the thing that Paige Pierce is doing, and it's bring disc golf to festivals. Like, that's how you get your, and you're whether you're forcing it on them or not, at least you get new eyeballs. Because we need to, in the US, we need to bring disc golf to people. In Europe, people are coming to disc golf. It's two opposites. So I think what Paige is doing and what Discraft is doing right now with some of that stuff, it makes a lot more sense to me here in the US to expose people. But I don't know. It's a tough question. I don't know if we're gonna get over any of it. So
yeah, it's infrastructure wise, we're built so different. And maybe that's a good question for a U-disc of like, where's the most green space relative? Because I'm sure they happen somewhere. I don't know where. And clearly we have no major event that is within walking distance of city center. I can't. We did some of the exhibition stuff, maybe sort of kind of, when we were in Kansas City for 2009 Worlds. I feel like we were at one of the cool parks, but that's where we were doing, the putting competition and the edge skill shot. So it wasn't even the full event. Things like that. Yeah, we could do. I think those are great exhibition things, but in terms of full disc golf courses, if there's someone that's got an idea, I'm all for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to say, and Michael says, organizing disc golf in schools and planting the seeds early is the future here. Europe's been doing that. It's tough because, again, you have so many different sports competing for the youth right now that it's very difficult to pull attention when you've got wrestling and baseball and basketball and soccer and it's very, very difficult to do things like that, especially considering we're a summer sport. Like it's the kids, they get out of school in June, and the prime of our tour is June through, we'll say, September, through the end of September. Like that's the prime area of our disc golf. Kids aren't in school then, so it's hard to organize something like that for kids. Like try telling a kid in February up in half the United States that we're gonna go play disc golf. They're gonna laugh at you. It's difficult timing, but I mean, my son did it. He actually helped teach a disc golf class to some summer school kids this year. He volunteered, and he didn't realize one of the curriculum was disc golf, and so he's like, I know how to do that. I can totally help out with that. And we actually ended up sending a couple discs with him, so that was kind of cool. But it's just tough. So I don't think there's a right or wrong answer. We just have to keep trying to attack it from different perspectives and different ways, and hope something catches.
Well, there's going to be no one silver bullet, and certainly with just how differently we're structured, we have to do, as you said, just keep taking all these different angles and perspectives, and we all know you can argue that kids in schools, then at what level? College disc golf certainly is a big deal and is becoming a bigger deal. Plenty of people will argue that we should be seeing it in the senior Olympics and the senior games that are held at the state levels. Sure, I think that's a great place to go for it. I mean, there's no wrong answer. It's just a matter of who's most passionate about which demographic you're going to go after today. I mean, no one will ever argue that, getting more disc golf into kids' hands and getting kids hooked early is a viable solution. But some might just say, well, I like that, but I really think we should also be going after, senior citizens, in that are already athletic, that are playing in the other senior games. Sure. It doesn't have to be an either or. And I think that's always the biggest part of our argument and conversation is it's not one or the other. It's and it certainly can be. So, all right. A few other things on the board. Somebody asked earlier about something about me running for the board. I don't see myself doing that anytime soon. Nothing for nothing. It seems like I don't want to say it just seems like a thankless job, and I've done other thankless jobs, but maybe at some point I run for a position on the board, but I don't need to right now. And there's plenty of other smart people doing plenty of other things. And, there's always going to be a conversation about conflict of interest, no matter who's on the board. And I'm sure that would be brought up plenty with me as well. So it's easier just to avoid it all. I'll support people that are doing good stuff over there for sure, though. Let's see if there's, just seeing if there's anything else we need to go. Somebody catching up with the fact that all that water came in. It's been crazy here in Wisconsin. Hopefully everybody gets dried out. Okay. Oh, Ed, I'm going back up. Casey, Ed said KC Wide Open and the Memorial are both in large cities. They are. KC, as far as I know, and it's been a couple of years since I've been there. Neither KC Wide Open, when I've been there and what I'm familiar with, Swope Park, which I don't think fully exists anymore. Swope Park wasn't really a park that people in droves would walk to or hang out at necessarily, although they could stumble upon it because I think they had a petting zoo and some other things there. Some of the other neighborhoods they were in were just notoriously not known as great neighborhoods. Cliff Stevens Drive. It wasn't Cliff Stevens. I know I'm mixing up with Tampa and Kenny's place, not Cliff Stevens. Something like that. Whatever it is. Cliff Drive, whatever. Not a good place, ideally, for just regulars to be hanging out. Blue Valley, big, massive course with these massive hills that disc golfers hardly want to play, let alone spectators stumbling upon them to go play there. Rosedale might be one of the few exceptions. I don't know what the walking area is like around there. I don't know that was necessarily known as a great part of town either. So I see all that. I will say a place like Fountain Hills and or Vista, kind of check those boxes to some degree. But at Vista, you're looking at a community, Fountain Hills, you're looking at a community that's largely retired. And like no one's moving to Fountain Hills that's under the age of 50 or 60. Maybe there are. I don't know. But not diehard people that are coming out there for the disc golf are under those ages. And so you get passerbys to kind of consume and be intrigued, but you're not getting them out in droves to come in and watch it. Could some PR be done to maybe entice them? Maybe. We're also playing on their park service that they hate because now they can't walk around the pond that they walk around every other day of the year. So there's a little PR that needs to be done there. And then at Vista, Vista is super busy and super active. And as you all know, you've seen plenty of footage of people riding their bikes, walking through it, skateboarding through it, doing all those things. It's great that it's got the activity, but there again, we're already disrupting other people that want to be there doing something else. And so I think that's kind of a tough nut to crack. But maybe those are the closest things, you're right, that we have right now. I feel like to a walkable large city thing or facility. So, and even there, the infrastructure is not there. Like there's one public bathroom in all of Vista, for just the general public. If you went out there tomorrow, there's one bathroom out there and it's in the middle of the park and you probably don't even know it exists, honestly, but there's one public restroom because most people are just kind of cutting through en route to whatever athletic activities they're already doing. So yes, and they look certainly nothing like Maple Hill or Brewster Ridge. I don't drive a Tesla, that's for sure. All right. I think that's about all that I got.
You got like a 4-hour drive ahead of you tonight, so there's more in you, that's for sure.
And I still got a kidney stone in me.
Well, don't pass it on the while you're driving.
Actually, I would take that all day to pass. That would be worth getting it out of me. I'm just hoping that the pain doesn't come back, and because I'm pretty sure I shouldn't be taking one of the pills and then trying to complete the drive. So anyway, like a Cybertruck guy, I am not a Cybertruck guy. I feel like I already checked that box of driving what many consider one of the ugliest vehicles in the world by me going all in eventually on a Honda Element, which I openly made fun of, and then a couple years later I bought one myself and still have it to this day. My daughter drives it, so yeah, I've already taken that ridicule once of like thinking, what is that and why is it so ugly? But it is what it is. All right, people. Thank you guys for joining us. As we said, we'll have some extra giveaways. I'm going to try and get some extra signatures this weekend, and so that we can get some special discs for you guys as part of the giveaways. I think I have a couple giveaways to catch up on. If so, and you're waiting, I apologize. At some point, I'll sit down and be able to hammer these all out in a big batch to get everyone caught up with where we're at. But
I've got some drippy boxes of discs. Let me just tell you.
If that's not hot. You really got that drip, don't you, Johnny?
I got the drip. You know it.
There's a 1 in 4. I'll give it a 25% chance you may see or hear some form of recap from me at some point this weekend. We'll see how things go. We'll see how long my days are. And there's so many activities, though, at night that it makes it tough. I may or may not have to check in with you guys from the casino, the riverboat casino. I mean, if I want to do my research, I know that's where I'll find Hamas and Yuli and AB and a number of others. And so for the sake of research, I will probably oblige and head over to the casino and do some recon. But that's for you guys. That's not for me. No blackjacks will be made on my account. They'll be for you guys. Or something. All right. Thank you guys for joining us. And coming along for the silly little ride. Hopefully everything was all right tonight. Hopefully audio and volume and everything else was good enough that we could get by. Next week, we'll probably be back to our regular scheduled program. And next week is just a few days before I leave for the Rocky Mountain Women's Disc Golf Championship. We've officially made all the announcements that I'll be out there covering that for the weekend, as I've done 3 or 4 other years in the past. Super excited to return to Colorado for the Rocky Mountain Women's. I will say it 100 times over. They spoil the participants possibly better than any other women's tournament in the world. So that says a lot. And if you got any chance to sign up or get out there or support a loved one or a friend to get out there and play in it, there's still spots available. That's the Rocky Mountain Women's Disc Golf Championship next weekend out in Colorado. For Johnny V, I'm the Disc Golf Guy. Big thanks one more time to Dave and the Dyers Guild. Make sure you check in with him at some point when you're at Ledgestone this weekend. Learn how to dye a disc or learn everything you need for dyeing a disc. He'll get you all set up. And with that, that's 568. We'll see you next week when you step inside the Smashbox. Wait, shoot, I gotta press the button. You normally press the button, and then I'm gonna press the button, right? So we're gonna